Hello and happy Friday. It is Friday and this is the Boilermaker Lounge. I'm the host. I am Sam Springer. I'm not the host. Good Lord. I am Sam Springer, as always, joined by the All-American. I guess I need to point the other way. The All-American Grant Flora. Grant, please excuse my stumbling.
You're all good. My brain's a little bit mush right now. We are officially done with fall semester 2025 here at
Boom.
Indiana Wesleyan University. This will be my last night recording in this studio. I'll be doing it from home for the next 4 weeks. So
Hey, but that's
it feels good,
the great thing. It's 4 weeks. You
right?
know what I mean?
Yeah, it'll be fun to have 4 weeks with no classes. Part of me is a little sad to not be on campus anymore. I like it here, but it'll be nice to not worry about that for a good 4 weeks.
You've been there since August, or probably what? Was it August, or was it a little bit before
Oh
August?
yeah, it was mid-August when we left for cross country. So,
and then so you haven't been home for a long time, meaning 4 weeks, for quite a while. So it won't seem
that's right.
much. Yeah, you know how quickly it goes.
Yeah, especially with Christmas and all
Yep.
the stuff that comes with that. So,
Yep. Absolutely. Well, speaking of gifts, the Purdue Boilermakers bounced back last night with a wonderful present of a second half in their game against Minnesota, 85-57. Grant, that first half was absolutely, I won't say atrocious, but it was not a good half of basketball, even though Purdue led at the half.
yeah, they got off to a decent start, I thought. I mean, they were up 7-0, and then they got up by double figures at one point.
Yeah.
But especially those last 4 minutes, Minnesota just made some plays. Purdue wasn't scoring, and it was a string of stops and scores from Minnesota. And next thing you know, it's a one possession game. I kind of
It
felt
was a
like
12-4 run, I think it was, to cut the lead
something
down
like that.
to 3.
And so it felt like they were comfortable, and then all of a sudden Minnesota was right there. And I kind of felt like Braden was really the only one that came to play for that entire 20 minutes. I still felt like the intensity and whatnot from the rest of the guys wasn't really quite there, which was kind of disappointing considering, how it went over the weekend. And I expected all guys that were on the court to really be getting after it. And Braden was really the only one I saw that from consistently.
Well, I can tell you, after the pick 6 lay-in by Braden Smith, one of his 5 steals, that crowd was explosive. Like, they were ready to blow the roof off, and the guys kept the lead. It was 7 to 5 to 8 points throughout most of those first 2 segments and portions of the first half, and you just didn't feel that there was a lot of intensity. Like you said, they were hitting some shots. Now, I would say that I agree that Braden Smith, but I also think Oscar Clough was a little bit more active and a little intense during that first half as well. But it did not feel like the rest of the team had really gotten it going. And I'm looking, Oscar Clough, it was 4 of 5, 3 rebounds, 1 assist in only 10 minutes of basketball. Like he was, when he was on the court, he was doing some good stuff. But yeah, Braden Smith, 10 points in that first half, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. He didn't have a great assist half in the first half, and it was because the rest of the guys weren't hitting their shots, and Braden kind of took it upon himself that, like, you know what, I think I probably need to take over and do some things. But that also reflects in his turnovers. He had 3 turnovers in that first half too, so his ratio was 1-to-1.
Yeah, and I feel like, especially you look at Iowa State, especially the second half of that game, in the first half of Minnesota, when the rest of the team was kind of struggling, I think Braden tried, like you said, to do a lot more himself, and I think he ends up doing too much. Like, that's what causes some of the turnovers. He missed some shots. I think even just the intensity and how hard he was playing, the energy, maybe was bringing a little bit more fatigue than he normally was used to, which might have been affecting his shot in some of those situations. So I think just for this Purdue offense and for this Purdue team in general to be at their best, obviously they need everybody to play well. But like even if a few of them are off, but Braden and say Oscar are still playing the way that they are supposed to be playing or with that intensity in the first half, like we saw, it still isn't enough because then they have to take on more and they end up just with battling and that burden and the fatigue and whatnot. And so I think that's kind of what you saw, and it ended up affecting both of their games as well.
Well, and I can honestly tell you, thank goodness it was Minnesota, because the fact that Minnesota decided, and Dustin and I talked about this last night, but thank goodness it was Minnesota, and they decided whether it was just Purdue's defense in that first half forced it that way, but they carried over to the second half too, forced them into a lot of threes. And I don't understand that because they're not a good three-point shooting team. They started, and I want to say in the first half they were one of no, they were 4-15, and they started 1 of 10. That allowed Purdue to get that little bit of a cushion lead, not playing the greatest in the world and still having a double-digit lead. But then they hit 3 right near the end of the first half. And you kind of wondered, oh my goodness, is this are they still really hungover from that Iowa State game? Did they really get shook? And it just, when they went into that, if Minnesota shoots 8 of 15, just over 50%, shoot, Grant, they hit 3 more. Purdue's down by 6 at the half.
Yeah, and really, even the ones that Minnesota didn't make, it was just Jalen Crocker-Johnson catching some fire.
Yep.
Like, he had 4 of the 6 they had for the game. Yep. So it was just the one guy that they were letting him shoot early on. Like, they were giving him all the space he wanted.
He had 3 of the 4 in the first half.
Right, and he ended up being able to make him pay some. But outside of that, it was dry from beyond the arc for Minnesota. And you're right, that could have really killed him. There were some times that there were some similar defensive breakdowns, I thought, to what we saw in the Iowa State game. It's just Iowa State made them pay every time, and Minnesota didn't.
Yeah, and we knew that they weren't a good three-point shooting team, but your averages find water finds level, right. And with them being so lopsidedly bad at times during the season, you almost worry that occasionally they might heat up a little bit, and they're supposed to be, instead of a 32 point something or other % shooting 3-point team, they shoot 40, and all of a sudden Purdue's down. You just never know. But yeah, Iowa State had no issues hitting those shots, whereas Minnesota didn't. Now, Grant, the halftime, okay? I'm sitting amongst these guys, and in the crowd, you could just feel the tense. Like, oh my goodness, is this going to happen? Really? Not sure. People like, I can't believe that only 2 people showed up, or 1 person. Like, everybody knew Braden was there, but not everybody gave Oscar that comment as well, and rightfully so. He only played half the half, so it's not like he was out there 18 minutes like Braden was and stuff like that, but you could just feel that something serious needs to happen out of the second half. And oh my goodness, Clough had it was TKR hook shot, I believe, anyways. I think it was TKR, Clough, TKR, a 3. Like, it was just boom, 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 boom. All of a sudden it's a 10-0 run, and Purdue's up 13, and you're like, we're not even halfway to the under 16, and they've blown this game open. It turns out it's 17-2 run. I'm sorry, 19-2 run, and Purdue outscores Minnesota 50-25 in that second half. Amazing basketball. That's what I expected in the first half.
Yeah, let me kind of tell you how this went for me, because I was very busy on Wednesday night with getting ready for my final stuff and whatnot. I had a lot going on, and so I kind of was following the game behind, and so I kind of sped through the first half, not live, but like it was probably halftime when I was watching the first half. I complete the first half, and by the time I complete the first half, the second half has begun just slightly. And so I basically just caught right up to live. I didn't know exactly where it was at. Ended up being like 17 minutes left in the second half. So we're 3 minutes into the half.
And it was
I'm
50
sitting
to
here
32 by then.
Right. Well, I'm sitting here like, this is, you got to be kidding me. They are not looking good in this first half. What's going on? Then I fast forward to live and they're up 45-32. I'm like, 10-0 run to start the second half. And I'm thinking, I must be at the under 16 or something. No, there was over 17 minutes still. Minnesota had just been forced into a timeout. So that was a very pleasant surprise. I didn't even see those first 3 minutes till I went back and watched it again. But yeah, that was a pretty pleasant surprise. And clearly there was some sort of mental flip there at halftime. And it was exactly, I think, what they needed going forward to hit this response.
Now it says 21-0. Was it a 21-2 run that they officially capped it at? I thought. I don't know. I thought
I saw 21-0.
It was a 21-0. I'm looking and it was a 21-0 run for Purdue, in which just to see that run and kind of just blows it wide open, because I know it was 50-32. And I'm positive they got it to 52-32 and a little bit beyond, maybe. So, yeah, I'm pretty positive that was a 21.
It was at least 17 or 19 or something.
I thought it was 21, but anyways, but yes, a huge run to basically just crush the soul of Minnesota. Like any hope that they had was just absolutely obliterated out of the gate. Before this under 16 media timeout of that second half, that place was rocking again. People were having a good time. And you or us as the media kind of just, I looked at Dustin, who was sitting just down from me, and I looked at him and I said, this game's over. He says, yeah, it is. Like it was to that point. Like they went into the locker room at the half, and you're wondering what in the world happens. 20 minutes later, when they start the second half, and at 4 minutes into that half, you're like, well, that was a quick game. Like it was an amazing second half for them.
Yeah, I mean, let's think about this from Nico Medved's perspective. Like you come off an upset win over Indiana that was huge for their team. So they were a ranked opponent, knocked off IU, 1-0 in the Big Ten, and then you come into Mackey a week later. They had no game in between. This was 7 days to prepare for Purdue, and Purdue's of course coming off their big loss to Iowa State. And you get into this first half and you close it out well, and you find yourself down just 3 with a lot of momentum built up from the end of that first half.
Having not played that well either.
Right. They didn't play that well. Their shooting numbers were off. Cade Tyson wasn't really doing much of anything. Like they were shutting him down. And so if you're Minnesota and you're Nico Medved, you're thinking, wow, we're in a great spot here. We can hang in there. We have a shot to clip one here and maybe nick off Purdue on the road. Go into Big Ten play 2-0, and then 3 minutes in the second half.
Tyson had 5 points in the first half.
Yeah, so like nothing crazy at all.
Right.
Considering what he's been able to produce for them, and within 3 minutes the game's over, and you go from thinking you have a shot to upset Purdue on the road and go 2-0 in the Big Ten to let's see how we can still make use of this second half.
Yeah, the fact that. I mean, it was just come on. These stats once they there it is. I found it. I was looking for the second half play-by-play, like all the plays that happened in the second half, and I was going to give a full let's see, it's 35, so there's 2. Let's see, before they scored it was 56-32. So that's a 21-0 run
21.
By Purdue out of the half, and we're talking alley oops from Smith to Jacobson. I think that happened twice in that run. Oscar Clough, a nice little hook shot. second chance 3-pointer by Fletcher Lawyer. After he was fouled and he missed the and one, they rebounded it and he hit a three right out. I mean, it just kept snowballing, and you could feel the roof starting to move off Mackey, because that's what we were looking for. And they looked like they had some serious heart to hearts in the in the locker room, I think.
Yeah, I don't think any footage or anything from that's been released. Sometimes they do with their movies,
I don't think it
that
will
they
be
have.
either.
I don't think it will be either, but that had to be a pretty interesting locker room situation and scene, because I bet players were pretty vocal. I know Braden and Fletch and TKR usually will be in those situations, and I mean, as much as we'd love to see that footage, I doubt we ever will, like you said. But yeah, clearly there was a change, and it was. I'd almost rather the game have gone this way, with the first half being rougher and the second half being better, and to come off with all of this positive momentum heading into Saturday, than even to have just had a balanced game where you maybe win by 30, but you win each half by 15. Only because I feel like you have more momentum now, and that basically what they went through in the first half, locker room, second half, is going to potentially help them to be better than what they were if it had just been an even, kind of smooth sailing type of game from tip to the final buzzer.
Yeah, and honestly, when I was while I'm watching this, I'm just going, man, this stinks. I wasn't panicking really. I mean, they weren't getting blown out, so I mean, they never trailed like that. They were never behind, but you just felt that uneasiness of, we've seen this act before, to where we underperform, and like last year, underperform and lose 4 or 5 straight last year during the Big Ten season. And it was 4, I think, wasn't it? And then
Yeah,
it was
4.
5 of 6 or 5 of 7.
Yeah, it might have been that.
Out, I think is what it was. Yeah. We've seen this before. We've seen the breakdowns at the hoop. I mean, that was huge right there. And Coach Painter addressed it after the game with Andy Katz. He said, sometimes when we get too anxious and hyped up in our defense, we jump the lane and it opens up that back door, that cut. So we because Andy Katz asked Coach Painter, what'd you say at the half? And I can tell you, he told us the very, very calm way that he talked about, I'm sure, because, I can only bet he not necessarily screamed, but he raised his voice and yelled some, like, we're better than this, quit jumping the lane so hard, stay back in your defense, because that's what he said to Cats. He said, I just told them they needed to rein it back a little bit, still play aggressive, but not so aggressive that they take themselves out of position. And that was exactly what they remedied once that second half started, was you didn't see the backdoor cuts.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge part of what it is for Purdue, is like, you don't have to go out there and be this, like, more than what you already are. Like, the Purdue team that we have is very good, and when they play the way that they are capable of playing at this point, they're one of the best teams in the country. And when you're playing Minnesota, that's what you're looking for. You try and do too much, then you find yourselves in situations where, like you said, you just open up avenues for the team to hurt you in other ways. And so I think the first step to seeing Purdue get back on track, stringing together good performances and knocking off good teams again, is like, just play basketball the way that you know how to play it and the way that you've been doing it. Like, get back to what you already know and what you are already.
Well, in that second half, I mean, they shot 63% from the field, which raised their overall total for the game to 53.4%. So that tells you that they didn't shoot very well at all in any way, shape, or form in that first half. And their 3-point totals, they were 6 of 13. Their shooting was much better. I tell you what, they play with that intensity and make those shots Saturday, it's a closer game too. I mean, it just, like, it's I mean, granted, don't get me wrong, I know Iowa State put that play into it, but Purdue, when they dictate how things go, it doesn't matter who they're playing. They can do that against just about anybody. And but my point being on this is, that is a performance, that second half, other than the free throws, which if you miss the front end of a 1-and-1, you're essentially missing 2 free throws, and it kills me. But yeah, this second half was a darn good half. I don't care who you're playing. Purdue dominates that second half no matter who they're playing because
And
of
their
what.
defense.
Yep.
Yeah, like you said, you can't forget that defense, because that defense is, I think, one of the biggest things that they could have used against Iowa State. Like, yeah, the offense wasn't there, but the
Absolutely.
defense is what they could control and what needs to be there consistently no matter what, because like you said, you can always bring the defensive intensity whether you're making or missing shots. And if you rely, you kind of like find your energy from that defense, like Coach Painter has talked about, that's going to help you. And I think that's kind of what they did in that second half is they played good defense, allowed it to transition to offense, and when your foundation is there, you can go on these massive runs.
Well, that the stat line for Mr. Braden Smith, my goodness gracious, 15 points, 5 of 9 from the field, 3 of 4 for 3-pointers. He was 2 of 3, but he did miss a front end, so I look at that as 2 of 4. 6 rebounds. He had more than 1 turnover. Am I reading the right? Yeah, I'm reading
4
right.
turnovers is what I
4
have.
turnovers. I was no. What I did was I moved over yes, it's 4 turnovers, 32 minutes, but he had 12 assists and 5 steals, 2 blocks. Like his stat line was amazing. You just look at it on this and it's like, how in the world? Like that was an absolute, you could tell he was all in on this game for the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, he made up for his turnovers with his steals. Like, he had more steals than turnovers. So, yeah, hard to knock his 4 turnovers for sure. But yeah, his intensity was just there from the tip. Like, probably the only one you could say that without question. I know Osterkloff was there too for a good portion of the first half, but Braden was the one who kind of led the charge, got them going in the first half, and he's the one that I think. You've seen it even in the Iowa State game. Like, when they were getting hammered there in that second half, he was still fighting, still clawing to try and make things happen. It's just he couldn't do it by himself. So his leadership just throughout these past couple of games, really this past season, it's just been so evident. And it's not unexpected. We knew it was there, and he's been that way for the majority of his career. But like, to see that in action in this year, has been pretty special, and it's going to be the type of thing that can get them to the championship level if they keep it up.
No player that wasn't an end of the bench clear out. You know what I mean? The last few minutes you get the end of your bench in to get some points. There was one player of the entire regulars, and I say regulars because that one person with a negative plus minus is Liam Murphy, and he only played 6 minutes. The rest of the guys that registered 12 or more minutes were at least even. Daniel Jacobson at a 0. He wasn't plus or minus. Everybody else was 4 or higher. And the starting 5, 27 for CJ Cox, plus 28 for Fletcher Lawyer, plus 25 for Braden Smith, plus 28 for TKR, and plus 28 for Oscar Clough.
Wow.
And that's the game. So that's even with like that real rocky, unusual, weird first half. They dominated this game.
This surprises me too that Jacobson was only even. Right.
Yeah, he had 11 points, but he might have given up points. I don't know exactly how they come up with the plus minus totals.
I mean, I bet he was in like the second half of the first half when Minnesota came back on him, and that
and he played at the end of the game too, more towards the end of the game, because Clough fouled out after only playing 19 minutes. He fouled out, and Jacobson came in for a little bit longer and played a little bit deeper into that, where the end of the bench started coming in, but he was in for a couple more minutes. So I don't know if Minnesota, really scored. I kind of stopped paying attention, and it's
Yeah.
no offense to those guys. I watch it, but I don't pay attention for like trends and stuff
Yeah,
because that
and
game's kind of over then.
plus Clough would have been the one in when they went on their 21-0 run or whatever it
Correct.
was. So he got
Yes.
most of
Yep.
that.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess that makes a little bit of sense. But he had a good game, and 11 points for him
For sure.
is really solid, and
3 of
just his
4 from the
ability to
line.
move. Yeah, and he finished those alley oops really well. There was one in the first half that he just didn't catch. I know Braden was kind of upset
Braden
about
was
that.
not happy. He at the timeout right out of that, he's sitting there getting on him like and there was one, and I don't remember. It wasn't to. I think it might have been to Clough. No, it was that one. No, I'm pretty sure that was Clough that Braden went up and acted like he was going to shoot it, but he flatlined it to pass it, and Clough just watched it go out of bounds. And then Braden's like, I'm setting you up here. Like, he's like, I'm throwing that to you. Pay attention to where, and like he's even moving his arm. Like, pay attention to the route, because it's not a shot.
Yeah, I remember that play. I kind of can see where if you're Clough, like he's going up, it looks
Absolutely.
like he's shooting it, and then it wasn't obvious right away that it was a pass, like it wasn't a dart, but yeah, it's just with Braden, you've always got to be ready for it because he can get it to you in a variety of different ways.
Stay under the rim, but go after the ball. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
if it comes to you, okay, you can see
yeah,
where
and
that ball's going to end up.
I feel like it was the principle too with the Jacobson one too, where it's like the team wasn't very locked in that first half,
And
it showed through things like not catching lobs and not being able to pay attention to when it's actually a pass coming your way. And so I think that was a huge part of the frustration is it's like these guys are not locked in the way that you should be when you're trying to come out and respond from a 23-point loss on your home floor. So I can see it from that perspective. Part of me is like, well, like Braden, you maybe could do a little better job making sure that these guys know the ball is coming to them, but at the same time, yeah, like these guys that are trying to catch your passes need to be locked in and playing to their full potential.
I was gonna say maybe that's what it was. Is if you don't focus, you're not going to see that was a pass. That was obvious, and from where we were sitting, you could see that it was obviously a pass. That was not a shot.
Okay,
so you could literally see that it was intended to be what that pass. It just might not have come off that way on the floor, or he just wasn't locked in at that moment, and he screwed up.
Well, yeah, and
So,
I'm sure like once you see Braden going up, Clough's thinking rebound, and so he's boxing out and he's looking at the rim waiting.
And that's kind of what he was kind of doing this and watched it go by and just well, all right, So the one thing I always try to kind of pay attention. Purdue out rebounds Minnesota 46-23. Oscar Clough and TKR 21 rebounds combined.
Almost. There'll be a day.
Yeah, I'm sure I hope there will be. It'd be nice if it was against like IU or something. But it's just that wouldn't happen last year. For one thing, TKR wouldn't have double digits. When he started this season, when he did the the first 2 games of the season got double doubles, they were like, "Ooh, that's his 5th career double double." He was not a rebounder last year. He did what he could, but he lost out a lot. And this dude's a rebounding machine, as is Oscar Clough. But we knew that already. We knew he was coming in as a rebounder.
Yeah. So that's been huge. And you throw Braden in with those two, and they've got 27. So well over.
Well, and
the 23 from Minnesota.
Jacobson had 5. Bencher had 6. It just like this was a dominating rebounding game, and but all right, let's put that in the rear view mirror and feel good about how it ended and expect it to carry on to Saturday. Purdue Boilermakers take on the Marquette Golden Eagles. I can remember when they were called the Warriors. The Golden Eagles of Marquette come in on Saturday 2 p.m. on Peacock. Grant, they're 5-5. They're 0-1 on the road. ESPN says they have an 8% chance to beat the Boilermakers at home. What are your thoughts, or your first thoughts? Let's say it that way.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting game because we all kind of looked at it as a big game. I think beginning of the season, and when we knew it was going to be scheduled, right? Marquette.
Let's say it this way. I thought Marquette would be the bigger matchup than Iowa State.
Yeah. Yeah, which is pretty crazy to say now. Marquette's 5-5. Now you're looking at them like a team kind of like Minnesota, where it's like this should be a blowout, and they are definitely the inferior team in what you would look at on paper. But you look at their schedule, while they're 5-5, their worst loss is Dayton, and Dayton obviously is not a great loss being a mid-major school, but they're one of the better mid-majors out there. And they've lost a couple of close ones as well. Maryland was relatively close. Oklahoma was at the 1-point game. I don't have it up right at this second, but they lost a few pretty close games that, you could say, well, if they can get on the right end of it, maybe this is an 8-2 team. But the other thing is, and this is where, Shaka Smart has tried to kind of follow the Matt Painter mold here of retention, not going into the portal, building your team from within. But he's gone to the extreme, kind of like what Coach Painter did last year with 0 transfers. This is now at least the second straight year, if not more, that Marquette has not taken in a single transfer. And I think you're starting to see how if you go to that extreme in today's day and age of college basketball, it's hard to compete at the highest level. And that's not to say that I don't think it's a good approach. Like, I think Purdue's approach is the right approach.
Sure.
But I think
yeah.
Marquette has missed that piece of supplementing with the portal, and they haven't bringing in these 5 stars or whatever, like the Dukes and Kansases of the world. So I think that's kind of what you're seeing with this Marquette team.
Well, and everybody runs into an occasional down year. Not that makes excuses or anything. You're still not happy as a Marquette fan, but honestly, I mean, every once in a while there is going to be a year that you just underperform and you're going to lose games that you shouldn't. But yeah, the fact that they're they lost to Dayton. You can handle the Wisconsin. Although the Wisconsin game against Nebraska on Wednesday, goodness,
oh man,
Nebraska. It was a 30-point final score, but it was 35 at one point.
Yeah, I saw the final. Nebraska is going to be an interesting team to watch this year because they're playing good basketball right now. I don't know that they have like any crazy big wins, but like they look like a solid team. And
guess where Purdue plays them the only time they play them this year?
Enlighten me.
They play in Nebraska. They play in Lincoln.
I was going to say, they have a lot of good home games. Lincoln. I don't think they're going to get this one. That's what I thought. That'll be an interesting matchup when it comes.
Yeah, especially if Purdue's hot. But to get back, sorry, I totally sidetracked. Yeah, they lost by 20 to Wisconsin. Like, Wisconsin housed them last week. It was a big, and they struggled against Valpo. That's another thing. Just a down year for him. I think I like Shaka Smart, although He came here. He's done a wonderful job with the likes of Marquette, but he's just not having the year that up to this point. It can always right the ship. And Lord, no, you're not allowed to get well on Purdue. No, especially not on Purdue at Mackey Arena. That the one every 4 or 5 years loss at home to a non-conference opponent. It's happened. We're not doing it again this year. So,
right. Yeah. So,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's one of those games. I think if you're Purdue, you could overlook it because you've got Auburn coming up in a week in Indy. But if you don't overlook it, you should be okay. But at the same time, some of these guys have played significant basketball before. Look at Chase Ross, Ben Gold. Like, these guys were on some of the greater Marquette teams, like that 2 seed they had 2 years ago when they made
when Michigan State beat them in the Sweet 16. Oh no,
Was it
yeah, that was
It was
NC State.
NC State. Yeah, I
And
was
then the
there.
year before they
Oh,
were
nice guy.
they were a 2 seed and got beat by Michigan State and Columbus.
Yeah. So they've been on those teams. Chase Ross has really played well at times, but he's I think probably trying to transition into that kind of lead role as far as the backcourt and the scoring and whatnot, and that's probably been a difficult transition for him. So
Right, yeah.
um yeah, but these guys have guys that can play. You can't just neglect what they have. So, for Purdue, I think it's kind of like we talked about in that second half of Minnesota, where you just have to be yourself. Like, don't come in here, and let any sort of outside influences take control. Like you've got some of the kinks out against Minnesota. Let's be the Purdue team that they've been so far this season, and just kind of take care of business. And I think they'll be all right, but again, this is I think you can kind of view this as a trap game if you're not careful. Um, so you got to come at it with the right approach.
Yeah, because then after that we go a week and then they play Auburn in Indianapolis. So yeah, it could you don't want to be looking past them to at Auburn in a week and have them decide they're going to pop off because they've got the capability. Chase Ross averages almost 20 points a game, so I mean he's their leading scorer, and if he blows up and all of a sudden Purdue finds themselves down 15, then all of a sudden you get right back into Iowa State all over again. And I'm not going to keep coming back to this, but it's been so recent, and they've only really put one good half together since that game. You're going to keep referencing back to it and potential teams that could snip or jump up and bite you. And this, like you said, it could be a trap game just because I don't anticipate those guys looking past another team this year.
Right.
I just don't. But it's still there. And it just happened to where Purdue got blown out at home. We don't want that to happen again.
Yeah, I think honestly, for me at least, until Purdue plays Auburn and hopefully beats Auburn and Indy, I'm probably going to be thinking about that Iowa State game. And then if they have a good couple of games here and can put that behind them, we hit Christmas, then I think we're beyond it. But until probably that point, we're going to be thinking about this Iowa State team and how can Purdue build back the momentum and get back into the swing of things. So, yeah, I think you've got to bring that intensity from the second half. We've got to see that for a full game this time, and it's got to come from guys outside of Braden. Like we've talked about how great Braden is and how important it is that he's leading in that area. But if the other guys don't follow suit, he ends up having to shoulder too much of the load and too much of the burden. And I don't want to really see that this game. I want to see this be a good balanced attack where everybody's kind of contributing and doing their jobs, and we see something like we did with Texas Tech.
I want to see a 20-point game out of TKR. I want to see Fletcher Lawyer get 14 and Oscar with 10 and Braden
14 for Lawyer.
An efficient 14, and then you have because that's what he's averaging is 14, but he takes a lot of shots to get it sometimes. And then have Braden have 6 points, 14 assists. Because that means he's shots are falling and he's distributing rather than needing to score. I think the games that he averages really low are probably going to be his more dominant games, simply because he's distributing it to everybody, and that means Purdue's putting up some points. What I want to see is a first and second half against Marquette to where Purdue just really flexes their muscles and gets those stat lines, and not exactly, but I would love to see something in those ranges to where you see CJ Cox score 11. But again, Braden has 5 or 6 because he just didn't need to shoot the ball. Put together first and second half, really dominant game against Marquette. And I'm giving my blueprint as to what makes me feel not any more trepidation about that Iowa State game. I meant to preface this.
Yeah.
Then against Auburn's a good team. So if in the first half, maybe even the first 3 quarters of that game, it's back and forth within 5 points, and then all of a sudden Purdue pulls away and wins by 11, I'm going to be happy with their rebound from that Iowa State game because, you know what? Auburn's pretty good. They're better than I thought they were going to be. I mean, they really are. So, of course, that's not saying much. I thought Iowa State wasn't going to be that good. And I thought Marquette would be better. But point being is, I think in my heart of hearts, they perform something along those lines, I'll be a happy dude.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Not to try and say, oh, in a perfect world, like we see a
Right.
perfect performance. Like obviously we want everything to be good. I would also love to see good, strong defense for 40 minutes and not Marquette could get held to 55 points in this game and we're like, oh, Purdue played great defense. And that would probably be the case. But I don't want it to be like Minnesota where, they held Minnesota to, what was it, 50 some points.
57.
57. But they could have had, 75 if they'd had the firepower of Alabama or Iowa State, like they knocked down shots that they were given. I don't want to see a lot of just wide open looks that Marquette misses.
Right.
Like let's lock down on this defense to where it's a defense that whether you played Marquette or you played Alabama, you'd be holding them to a pretty reasonable amount.
You're wanting them to score 57 the way Purdue scored 58 against Iowa State, where they really just struggled to get and scrap every bit of those points, even though, and
obviously that's what you want if you're a fan of a team, right?
Sure.
Like I'm not saying something crazy here,
right?
But that's the kind of defense that a championship level team needs to put out there, and it's good to start seeing those things now, especially against a potentially weaker opponent.
Yeah. Well, it's 2 p.m. on Saturday, tomorrow on Peacock. Depending on the weather, I am hoping to be there. That's my biggest hope is I'll be the weather maps are varying back and forth, and it's kind of like West Lafayette and my house are like on a band right on the edge of the 2 to 4 inch of snow line, and I'm hoping it's either that or the place or the band right above it is 1 to 2 inches. So I'm hoping that it's just sporadic snow, so I can have no worries driving to and from. But I guess that's why it's at 2 p.m. I can leave at 8 a.m. and still get there in plenty of time.
Yeah, that's right. That's a pretty good time for a game. Gives you time before and after.
And then you can get home at a reasonable hour and fall asleep on the couch.
Right.
Well, I ideally this should be a pretty lopsided game. Ideally, I'm not saying that it's a lock for that. Ideally, and I'm hoping that that their shots they take this team as serious as they did that second half against Minnesota, and maybe like you said, it's better that it happened that way to where the second half was when they had that domination, because then they can go, oh, we can carry this on,
Right. Yeah, I mean, you had a half where you outscored them by 25. Like, you put two of those together and it's 50, as opposed to, it just shows how good those 20 minutes actually were. So, I think if they can just find a way to string that together, obviously we're talking about a great game here.
Yep. Well, like I said, tomorrow, 2 p.m. on Peacock at Mackey Arena. Don't know who's going to be on the call there. I haven't got my information yet. So
game's on Peacock. So
Hummel was there for the Big Ten Network. Maybe he's still there. Maybe he stayed in town. I
wouldn't be surprised.
Or maybe he had a game. Well, no, Indiana, the Pacers weren't playing. Of course, I don't know. Why guess? Goodness. How silly am I? I'm just thinking, as much as that dude works, he's not just sitting around West Lafayette for 3 days. It's my thought,
True.
But maybe he is. Maybe he's going to practices and stuff and doing some talking and some work there. But anyways, Hummel may be on the call, but he was, there with Big Ten Network. So, but anywhoozle, that brings us to the end of Boilermaker Lounge for this Friday. Boilermakers 9-1 take on Marquette. We should have a post game reaction. Let's hope it's a good one. Post game reaction on Saturday after the game against the Marquette Golden Eagles. But thanks so much for joining us this week for the All-American here, Grant Flora. I'm Sam Sprunger. We will see you on Tuesday.